everybody. Welcome to the Ike and Larry Show. And
What's up?
We talk about the paranormal and whatever else we decide to talk about. This is episode 5. Can you believe it? 5 episodes already.
I know.
Channel is going strong. I mean, it's not super strong, but it's growing, and there are some people that are interested in listening to what we talk about.
Then they got to start sending us some questions and thoughts and comments so that we know they're out there and maybe share some of their thoughts. I do want to say something real quick that, folks, we talk about a lot of things in this show. Neither Ike or I claim to be experts in what exists on the other side. And as far as we're concerned, I don't want to speak for you too much, Ike, but there are no experts into what the paranormal is or is not. We're just simply sharing with you our opinions, thoughts, and experiences. So just want to get that out there.
And we're sharing with you things that we may catch that are happening in the news or any unusual occurrences that may be going on that you haven't heard about. So maybe this is something you haven't heard. So anyway, we never really properly introduced ourselves. And real quick, my name's Ike Enzi, 27 years in law enforcement, 21 years in police work and 6 years in corrections work. Prior to that, I was a jack of all trades, as a logger, a truck driver, a garbage man, all that good stuff. Retired as a chief of police in the town of Moriarty, New Mexico, held all the ranks that you can think of up through all the way up to chief. Been retired for 3 years now, and I highly recommend it to everybody. Retirement is great.
Absolutely.
And Larry, throw out your pedigree. Let's see if we have enough time.
Yeah, well, not much of a pedigree. I've been actually in law enforcement for 40 years. A good portion of that, I was the director of the police academy for this region of Florida, and what they call the Treasure Coast of Florida. But I worked as a detective, investigator for the state attorney's office, which is similar to what Ike did. He was with the district attorney's office, you call it there. So I was detective supervisor, investigator for the prosecutor's office, director of the police academy. I was also a law enforcement educator. Worked patrol. I got my first 9 months was corrections also. So, but 40 years total, and it's a little bit about me.
And the one thing I want to mention is we worked our way to the top, and we weren't desk jockeys and don't know what it's like on the streets.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people say, once you go up through the ranks, it's all over. You're not really a cop anymore. It's bullshit. You were afraid to promote because you weren't smart enough. The idea is to promote and move up through the ranks to get you out of danger. But trust me, I spent many, many years in patrol cars fighting the bad guy. I was in charge of tactical teams, firearms instructor. We both got our hands dirty for a long time. But my goal was always, just like in the military, the higher you move into the ranks, the easier it gets for you. And that's the whole idea. You really want to be a patrolman 1, getting screamed at by a sergeant that's only got 2 years under his belt? Oh, absolutely not. You want to move up. That's the whole idea. You agree?
Well, I agree. I totally agree. So
today's topic, I'm really excited about it. I'm excited and shaking about it. That's how excited I am. Well, maybe not that damn excited. But we're gonna talk about near-death experiences. And we come across a video we watched. I shared it with Larry, and we got some really good points off of there, and some of the stuff that I did not know. And if you hear some rumbling right now, it's got some crazy weather going on outside. We got rain, snow, and thunder all happening at the same time. Welcome to New Mexico.
New Mexico, crazy place. Land of enchantment, they say. Yeah.
And winds, like 40-mile-an-hour winds. I went running this morning, and it was insane. But back we've all, I think in the last episode or episode before that, I mentioned a story I had where I took a Native American kid, and I call him kid. He was probably 22 years old, to jail. He had a warrant for traffic warrant or something, and but he's a really cooperative kid. And we started talking about the paranormal, and he told me, that he died once during I think it was a traffic crash or something like that. But he was pronounced dead, and he was telling me that he's not afraid of dying. He goes, he experienced everything that everybody talks about: the light, the overwhelming sense of peace, and then his dog. He didn't see his parents, or his dad was dead. He said, I didn't see my dad. I didn't see anybody that I've known, my family, or anything else. All I remember is I was petting my dog, and he had a Labrador dog. And he said, I was just petting my dog who had passed years ago. And I was so comfortable and so at peace just being with my dog. My dog was so happy to see me. He goes, I really didn't want to come back. And then he goes, something just popped. And next thing you know, he's waking up in the hospital. But that's a classic near-death experience. Everybody's near-death experience is different, I guess, depending on your beliefs, what you miss, what you love. You know, some people see their parents, some people see God, some people see Buddha. Uh, I'm not really
There
sure
is
what I would see.
you probably ought to be scared of what you would say,
I'd
but
probably
I think,
see my motorcycle, my BMW. I'd probably see that like, oh, there you are.
but there does seem to be one common thread in this near-death experience discussion: the bright light and walking towards it and seeing somebody there or something there to welcome you. That seems to be a very, very common thread with
Yes.
NDEs.
And we're going to touch on that as we go down through our little points. So
Yeah.
the term near-death experience was coined by Dr. Raymond Moody in 1975, which isn't all that long ago. It's been happening for millennia. I mean, the Egyptians had stories about the afterlife, but this doctor in 1975 has experienced it so much with his patients, hospice patients, that he called it near-death experience, which is actually a misnomer because near death, they recently changed it to experience of death, or acronym of RED,
Mhm.
recent experience of death,
Yeah.
because you have to be dead to experience that. If you're near death, then that's just something your brain made up. But these
Mhm.
people are clinically dead. Their brains have stopped working. Their heart stopped pumping. There's no more oxygen circulating. And they can experience these things for a long time afterwards. So it's actually a death experience that you've somehow come back from, correct?
It is, and it all, so much of it has to do with the brain, or well, maybe the brain, maybe the soul. We just don't know yet. But there's some real interesting studies that are going on right now about what it is and what that experience really entails.
And there's another good point that they made, and this is all the latest medical science that's coming out on this, and it's not that late. I've actually heard about this next point quite a while back, that the brain stays alive for quite a while. The cells in your brain stay alive. It used to be 3 minutes, then they said 5 minutes without oxygen, your brain is dead.
Yeah.
Now it's up to an hour. And they said that what kills your brain cells, is the reintroduction of oxygen. So your brain goes into almost a hibernation when you die, and it stays there functioning for a long time. And it's when you start pumping on the chest and doing rescue breathing, the introduction of oxygen and circulation kills your brain cells really, really fast.
Well,
And that's why people who get suspended in cold water, submerged in cold water, they can be dead for an hour and over an hour and come back with virtually no brain damage. So
Mhm.
there's more to this, but go ahead.
There's cold, and one thing that I heard also, sometimes it's the air contaminates, or something in the air is what also contaminates the blood that goes into the brain.
Right.
Really fascinating. I think what interested me the most was the brain can stay functional for up to an hour in
Yeah.
some
And
cases.
over an hour in some cases, they said.
Yeah. Well, if it's cold, especially submerged in water, yeah.
And be brought back with no consequences, no ill effects to the brain after an hour,
Mhm.
with a special device that they've come up with, and I'll talk about that here in a little while. But
Ah,
bringing oxygen back into the brain, and that's what's killing the cells, because the cells get oversaturated with oxygen and just die off instantly. That means we've been doing CPR for all these years, literally killing people with CPR. And to prove that point is I have done CPR many, 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 many times out here. And I remember one clearly, I was up on the interstate and had a medical call, probably about 30 miles east of the city on the interstate, I-40. And it was a heart attack. And I drive out there, and it's an elderly man, probably in his 50s, pretty big guy, obese. He does not very healthy, and his wife and his son and daughter, and he is dead. We get there, I yank him out of the car, put him on the ground, and me and the deputy immediately start CPR until the ambulance gets there. And we're pumping away on this guy, which, if you've done CPR, you have. It's not like you see on TV. It is incredibly exhausting. I mean, you're basically breaking ribs to get this freaking heart to start pumping again,
mhm.
and especially on a really big guy, a really fat guy. And I pumped on him for probably about 7, 8, 10 minutes or so. And the ambulance finally showed up, and they bring out their ventilators and all that stuff. And they high five each other and they congratulate me like, "Good job." I was a sergeant. And, "Good job, Sarge. You just saved a life. You brought this man back to life." And I was like really excited. I'm like, hell yeah. About time this worked, because I've literally done CPR 20, 30 times prior to that, and it never works. It works with electrocutions and possibly drownings. Anything else, there's a reason your heart stopped, and there's no matter how much beating and pounding and pumping on it, it's going to convince it to come back. There's
Probably,
an
yeah.
underlying medical issue. So I was really excited about this guy. They stuff him in the ambulance. I get behind the ambulance. I escort the ambulance into town, and we're just halfway to town now. We're like 15 miles away from the town. There's a rest area. I see the ambulance turn its lights off and pull into the rest area. And I'm like, oh man, maybe they're going to land a helicopter. So pull in back there, get out of my unit, walk up there. I'm like, what's going on? Yeah, he didn't make it. I'm like, shit. I knew it. I just knew it. CPR. Yeah. I've never seen CPR work on anybody. Truthfully, I've seen it work on a bear. I've seen a game warden do CPR on a bear that got electrocuted. He climbed up a telephone pole and everybody's underneath there yelling at the bear, and he got shocked. It was just a big old flash of light. The bear just falls out of the pole. He's on the ground, and these two game wardens, it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I wish I would have recorded this. But they start chest compressions on this freaking bear, and this bear comes back to life. And I'm like, CPR worked on a bear. That's the only thing I've ever seen it work on.
Well, in the
go ahead.
In the early days of CPR, it included mouth to mouth resuscitation. Now they don't rescue breathing. They don't do that anymore. And I would be interested in knowing, after hearing how the contaminated oxygen might adversely affect the receptors in the brain.
Right.
Was it the rescue breathing that maybe caused that more so than the blood circulation?
Exactly. This is what I was saying from the beginning. Did we actually do more harm than good? Especially with cases like auto crashes or electrocutions or drownings. Now, like I said, the old person whose heart quits, there's probably no amount of CPR that's going to bring that back. There's a reason all that quit. It's just wore out, and it's probably clogged up with cholesterol. Who knows what else is going on, and you can't bring that back. But a normal, healthy person whose heart stops, and you start pumping away on them, are you doing more good or bad? It's a good question. And I think one of these years they're going to find out we've probably been doing it all wrong. We were doing the rescue breathing wrong, because remember, what has it been, 10 years now? They finally stopped. They used to tell us as police officers anyway, because of the biohazard. We all carried these
little masks.
The mask with the ball. I can't remember the damn thing. Because I'm not going to lock lips with a stranger out there anywhere. But they got away with rescue breathing. They said, it's not really necessary. Just start pumping on that heart, and at a really fast rhythm. It was, they said, sing the song, Staying Alive. That's about
that's right. Yeah.
That's the speed, and oddly enough, that's the same speed to Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. So that's the song you don't want to be singing while you're pumping on that, because it's kind of inappropriate.
Yeah. But isn't this interesting that all of the new recent studies are showing or suggesting, I won't even say showing, but suggesting, at least to a layman like me, that maybe this stuff really isn't working, and maybe that brain is still functioning. And it goes back to, I think we talked a little bit about it last show or the one before. We just don't know what the brain is capable of. I mean, actually being able to keep the brain alive for up to an hour. Do you remember hearing about the pig heads?
Right. So before we go to the pig heads, though, let me just think. Okay. I'm thinking back on all the times I've done CPR or stood by and watched CPR. And if the brain truly stays alive for over an hour, the odd remarks we've made, the stupid comments we've made, because how cops are morbid. That's how they deal with it. It's not disrespectful, but that's cops and medical people in general, and OMIs, medical examiners, they're the worst. I think that's how they deal with this stress. And man, we used to make some really, really bad comments and bad stuff, and these people were still conscious hearing.
And is that period of time where RED, now they call it, what RED stands for, just went right out of my head.
Recalled experience of death.
Recalled experience of death, or NDEs, near death experience, which I'm used to calling it. Is that really an experience of death, or is it the brain just going into that hibernation period? I remember a story. I was actually I was doing a tour. One of our tours, as you know, have Indian River hauntings, and we do historical ghost tours here in Vero Beach. And we were actually out in Fellsmere, a little town of Fellsmere, and I was doing a tour out there. Had this guy. Was with a group, and this one guy was very standoffish, very quiet, stood in the back, and I'm like, oh, he does not like this stuff. He's here because the wife made him come or something like that. And he doesn't believe any of it. And we go through the entire tour. Finally, at the end, he comes up to me and he introduces himself, and he's a doctor. And he said, "Look, I got a story to tell you. Um, I was doing as a young intern in somewhere in Colorado, either Denver or Boulder, if I remember correctly. And I was in the ER, and we had a guy come in, and he was cut stem to stern. He was knifed, and his guts were falling out, and we were doing everything we could to save him. We called in the thoracic surgeon to help, and we actually saved the guy. He lived. About 6 months after this incident, the guy came back, and he wanted to thank everybody for what they did for him. And he asked about the doctor with the funny glasses, and the gentleman I spoke to said that was the thoracic surgeon. He had a very funky looking pair of glasses on. And the doctor said he turned to the former patient and said, "How did you even see him? You were dying." And the guy said, "Oh, I was sitting up in the corner of the ER looking down at all of you as we were doing it, and I saw what he did for me." Immediately, you got to think, well, his spirit somehow left his body, his soul, and actually watch it until it shot back in. But, and I'm just throwing this out here, was that really what happened, or was his brain just going into the shutdown motion? And I mean, I guess the first argument is, how did he still see the doctor? Because his eyes were shut.
Right.
So, but still an interesting story nonetheless.
Well, the rational explanation always up to now, or up until recently, has been the dying brain. The brain's losing oxygen, cells are starting to fire. It's the last thing to survive, and it's just making up things. And that was accepted for a long time, but now there's a problem with that. And I've always wondered about that myself, because I've seen this in real life when my mom died. And people who have brain injuries, maybe people that are severely handicapped, they have the intelligence of a 3-year-old. When they die, suddenly become really clear. People that have Alzheimer's, people that have really, really bad dementia, the day before death, half a day before death, the hour before death, become certainly lucid and very clear and intelligent. And that's what happened to my mom. Now it begs the question then, if you have dementia or you have Alzheimer's really, really bad, and a day before death, suddenly your brain fixes itself, then why can't they just cure dementia and Alzheimer's by starving your brain from oxygen for a little while? What fixes all this stuff? What is happening here?
And there's the question we still don't know the answer to, and that's an excellent point. I mean, if somehow the brain is fixing itself, why can't we figure it out? It's because we can't even figure out the brain as a whole yet, much less how to fix it half the time.
And then you mix in conscience or the soul. Now, if you're out for an hour, where were you? Where did you go? Because you're dead. There's absolutely no functioning going on. Where the heck were you?
And if you could find these things on the internet, or all kinds of places on the internet, folks that have actually experienced this, they experience everything from hovering above their body and watching, such as the story I just discussed, or maybe going somewhere else, meeting up with relatives. I've seen several where they actually met God or Jesus, and they said, "Not quite your time yet. You need to go back."
See, those things, you could still have doubt. You could still say, well, that's your belief and it's your dying brain, making peace in your final thing. But when you described a doctor that was in the other room, or there was a good story on that video we watched, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I'm not a freaking, but this doctor was an intern at a hospital in his second year or third year internship. And he walks into a room and he sees this patient, and the patient dies. And they try to revive him, and there's nothing going on. He's dead. So they cover him up, and he walks out of the room, and he's like, wow, it's a great way to start out the day. He walks out of the room, and it was around lunchtime, and they had a lunch prepared for the person that died. And the doctor's like, well, can I have this lunch? I'm hungry. I haven't eaten anything all day. And they said, sure. He's damn sure not going to eat it. So he eats his lunch, and he sits there and reflects on everything. And I think he said several hours go by, and he comes back to the same area, and he notices the patient that was dead is suddenly sitting up, and he's talking. And somehow the other surgeon or doctors got there and managed to revive this guy. And he was like, wow, this is crazy. I thought for sure he was dead. And they resuscitated him with CPR or whatever they did and brought him back.
Mhm.
So this doctor walks in there and talks to this guy. And this guy starts making some really strange remarks. He goes, I appreciate what you did trying to save me. Uh, and then he said, I don't appreciate you eating my lunch. He was joking about it. He goes, but, you shouldn't have probably eaten my lunch. And the doctor's like, how the heck do you know? I was outside in the hallway. I wasn't even in the room, and you were dead when I ate your lunch. And then the most disturbing thing this doctor claims, he said, it wasn't the idea that somehow he's seen this doctor eat my lunch. It's he could read my mind, and he knew what I was thinking. Because this doctor, in the beginning, when he walked in and this patient died, was a little upset that his shadow doctor that's supposed to be guiding him through, because he was an internship guy. Yeah, so he was upset that the doctor wasn't there with him, guiding him through the whole process and helping him out. And the person that had died said, you don't need to worry about the other doctor holding your hand. You did what you did. You did a good job. And this doctor said, I would have never told anybody because it was embarrassing for me. I wouldn't go around saying, I need another doctor to hold my hand. I'm a doctor myself. But that person that died somehow knew I ate his lunch, and he also knew exactly what I was thinking at the time. And this doctor now is like confused. He's like, well, this goes against anything I was taught in med school. I mean, this makes absolutely no sense.
He's a firm believer now we start transitioning from it's the brain shutting down and somehow the synapses are firing and memories are coming back, maybe regrets. That's what they're feeling as things begin to die, but then they come back. That kills that part of the story. Now you've also got to wonder, are they actually leaving the body and going up the tunnel to the end and then get sent back? Still may be a possibility. But that story in and of itself opens up an entire new ball of wax. Is the brain a doorway to something else?
Yeah.
If this guy is able to hear the story, what this other doctor was thinking beyond the physical activity, he's eating his lunch, now we're talking about the ability to see way beyond things. And I've got to start asking, is this a doorway to the other side? Is this a doorway that leads us to other intelligence? Is there that collective intelligence in heaven where we're all basically connected anyway? Now, the stories can just go in all kinds of directions just from that.
Where it throws me off, and this was new information to me, because that opens up a different avenue for us as ghost hunters, because if you're dying, researchers. If you're dying and your spirit soul leaves the body, we always assumed, you're still that same person. You're just in a different ether. You're floating around in this vapor form. But have you ever considered that these spirits can read your mind? Now, when you're out there looking for spirits and hunting for spirits or trying to document spirits scientifically, these things may be able to read your mind long before you even get to the building. And even once you get to the building, they may decide, like, I've been inside your head. I know your demons. I know what you've done in the past. I don't even want to deal with you, or vice versa. So that's a whole different thing.
Well, how many times have you taught, and I've had this actually happen myself during investigations, where my name is mentioned, or mediums. Chris is a good example here. Chris Huff, he's talked about spirits saying that they know him. Well, is it because they just see him hanging around at haunted spots, or can they just see into his mind?
Like a collective.
The collective.
They may know. They may know more about you than you think. Your entire life.
Well, and is that because we're just constantly going through this big cycle? I mean, once again, the answers go in all kinds of different directions. So what is this red or NDE? What really is it that we're experiencing, do you think?
Well, you mentioned the experiment they did on pigs.
Oh, this is wild.
This was a group of scientists that wanted to know how long a brain can stay alive. And they got a bunch of decapitated hogs with pigs' heads.
The butcher, yeah.
And they had invented a machine prior to where we talked earlier about oxygenating the blood. Now, they said it's the introduction of oxygen into the blood that kills brain cells. So they invented a machine that takes your blood out, almost like a dialysis machine, runs it through a bunch of diaphragms and introduces oxygen at real low levels and puts it back in your body so it doesn't have that shock of oxygen running to you. It just kind of brings you slowly back. Well, they tested this machine on pigs' heads. And surprisingly enough, these pigs' heads became completely animated again. They were doing whatever pigs were doing without a body. And it freaked these guys out so bad because there was really no clinical explanation for what they had just done. It's almost like the movie Flatliners.
God forget about that.
Yeah, it freaked them out, and they said they just scrapped the whole thing. They said, like, this is we need to like just wait a couple of years before we proceed with this because this makes no sense. Because not only are these,
that's another one.
Yeah, no, these pigs are not only dead, but they're decapitated, and they've been dead for a long time. And by introducing low levels of oxygens, their brains started functioning again and firing again, and they actually mapped their brains to where they could tell these pigs were functioning as pigs, even though they were dead for a long time. Now that's weird.
For several hours.
That's Frankenstein.
My son is a respiratory therapist up in the Gainesville area, and I was talking to him about this video the other day because he at one time tried to explain to me what you're describing is ECMO, ECMO, and he thinks that's one of the most fascinating things that is in his field, and he's actually wanting to become certified to do what they call ECMO. And I was explaining this to him, and he said, yeah, that's exactly how it works. Now, he was surprised when I told him about the pig experiment where they were actually finding the brains of the pigs were beginning to start to fire again. And he was also very much surprised when I told him that studies are now showing that the brain's synapses are actually, and I hope I'm using that word correctly. If I am not, folks, please forgive me, not being a doctor. But he said he was surprised that over an hour later that the brains were reacting to it.
Yeah.
So this is not what we're talking about. Is not, I don't think, really well known right now.
Not at all
in the world. But the folks, scientists are experimenting. They're looking. They're not experimenting on people or pigs. Don't misunderstand us. These pigs were already on the way to the butcher shop.
Well, some people are. Elon Musk.
Wow. Now that is an excellent thought here. Let's take, for example, that the brain is, let's go back with that theory I had, that the brain actually is a doorway to other things. All right, because we just don't know it. We're already seeing we've already talked about all these cool experiments and things that are happening, things that are experiencing. But now let's just go with the theory that the brain is some sort of doorway and there's some sort of spiritual angle. Now with Elon Musk, and those of you that hadn't heard about it, he put a chip in somebody's brain that allows them to, like, let's just say they're paraplegics, but this chip in their brain will allow them to work their computers and things like that just by thought. So now we're attaching AI to the human brain, which we really don't know everything about yet. And we don't know all the capabilities that involve everything from ESP, remote viewing, near-death experience. Now we're putting some AI stuff in there.
Well, let's think about it. If your brain was hooked up to AI, you were literally the smartest person in the world. There are smart geniuses in the world, but there's genius to their specific learning. You hook IA to your brain, you virtually are the smartest person in the world. You know everything that's on the internet, which is everything.
But if we go back to that theory that the brain's a doorway, maybe there's a collective conscious. What is that going to create? What is that going to create?
Would you allow a chip to be implanted in your brain?
No. I mean, it's easy for me to say I'm not a paraplegic, and maybe this device is going to open up ways to maybe heal folks that are going through that, or at least give them a decent form of life. So pathway in life. So far be it for me to say it's terrible, but me, no. You put something into my brain, which we still don't know everything that it can do.
Well, look at it this way. It could probably extend or prolong life indefinitely. If you're 20 years old and you have that chip put in your head and it measures your brain waves and your blood oxygen levels and your bone density and any disease, cancer, diabetes, or anything that's creeping in and catches it long before it ever even gets to you, it could just completely keep you healthy all the time.
Well, I think, I mean, you're going to have to add things like that with transplants because your heart's still going to wear out. So, and if they replace it, it'll keep going. But I see your point. It certainly would prolong life. Um, boy,
Have
I
you
don't
heard of
know what
Have you
would.
heard of nanotechnology, nano scrubbers?
Oh
Little
yeah,
little
yeah.
devices they can inject into your arteries, and it'll just travel through your entire circulatory system and cleanse out and clean out any plaque buildup that you may have had. That would
Maybe
save,
fix the part that's broken.
yeah, billions of lives.
Take out a cancer that's starting
Yeah,
that is not even perceptible yet.
yeah.
I mean, all that's possible, and now we're starting. Wow.
But
So
my thought on this is most people would not want to live forever.
I
I
wouldn't
don't
either.
think the brain, your soul, or your conscience is designed to be around forever in the human form. Most old people you talk to are like, I've had a good life. I've experienced so much
Mhm.
love and I've experienced so much bad. Most of my friends are dead. These people that are 100 years old, all of my friends are dead. I have nothing. I'm ready to go. I don't want to live another 20 years. I don't want to make new friends. I am done. And there's a lot of old people. In fact, I think all old people that are, probably 80 plus, they're like, I'm done. I've had a good life. I don't want to live another year.
Let's look at what we do. We are paranormal researchers and investigators, right? We are dealing with folks, spirits, souls, entities, energy, whatever you want to call it, that's on the other side, that's trying to contact us, make contact with us, or somehow interfaces with us. Now we're creating the opportunity for that body, therefore the soul within the body, if that's the direction you want to go or you believe, that it's not going to leave anytime soon and it could be perpetual. Aren't we messing with things that we shouldn't be messing with results that we may not like, if you
I think
see where
so.
I'm coming from? I
I think
mean,
so.
you go into what is it? Cryogenics. I mean, there are some crazy people that did
Freezing, for people who know what that is.
free. Yeah,
I
freezing.
cryogenic a lot. I cry a lot, but that's not the same thing.
Boom, boom. Anyway, but there are folks that have frozen their remains.
Yeah.
There are companies that will freeze
Just your head.
your head with the anticipation that you're saving what's going on in there. But are you actually saving what's going on in there, or are you preventing that soul to go where it's supposed to go, regenerate, come back, whatever is going on out there?
And we thought it sounded really stupid, 20, 30 years ago when they really started freezing heads. Now it's not that far
Well,
fetched
yes,
anymore. Obviously, the
yeah, I think
pigs,
it's
the
still
pigs
stupid.
speak for themselves.
Well,
That's only been an
I don't.
hour,
Yeah,
but
but I don't think the pigs are ready to start eating again at the trough, just their heads. I don't think that's really what happened with them.
probably not.
But they were beginning. The brain function was beginning to show signs of life.
But I
But
think the
what?
idea with the heads was that in the future somewhere they can download your conscience into some kind of computer
Yeah,
system,
yeah,
and your conscience will survive, in the digital world somewhere. I think that's what the whole idea was.
yeah, I agree. I'm sure that's what it was. But you're still, when you look at it from our point of view of what we're investigating and what we theorize might be going on out there, aren't we gumming up the works of the way things are supposed to work? And how long will it be before that kind of backfires?
Well,
If
just more often than not, when we mess around with nature and the
that's
cycle of meth, when we meth in Torrance County, we meth. But if you mess around with nature, it always has some kind of weird, cause and effect type thing. There's always, you do one thing and something else happens. And
there's an effect,
yeah.
And I've actually, and this is just a personal belief of mine, I've come to the belief that everything happens for a reason. There is a thread we're supposed to follow. And
Mhm.
while there may be little divergence we can take now and then, we're supposed to stay on a perfect path. And if we force ourselves off that path, something goes haywire.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So so aren't we
So,
kind of.
so another thing science can't explain with the dying brain, going back to more to the
Mhm.
beginning of this thing.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Um, if you think of your brain as a battery, and if your cell phone battery or a flashlight battery, and as it gets weaker and weaker, the light gets dimmer and dimmer, and it's less functional, and then eventually it dies. So it should function as you're dying, and your cells are dying in your brain. You should start getting cloudier, fuzzier, cloudier until you fade out. why is it the exact opposite? As your brain is dying, you suddenly become more clear, more lucid, more articulate. All these things that you didn't have nearly as good when you were alive suddenly become better. Once again, is there starve your
Well,
brain for oxygen, I guess you'll become a genius.
it could be, or it could be like a gas engine on a lawnmower. Just before it runs out of gas, it's winds up real fast and then poof, it's gone.
Yeah,
Could
maybe.
be one of the.
But they say they feel more, that you
Mhm,
always know all near death experiences, or what was it called again? Red. Um,
mhm,
People feel more love. They feel like
mhm.
they're liked. They see colors better and hear better, and everything makes more sense. Well, all of these cognitions shouldn't be happening in a dying brain. You should just be feeling less and less and less until you're gone. It shouldn't all get
Until it
better.
blacks out.
Yeah.
And maybe there is the argument that the soul or something is getting ready to move on to a different plane. We don't know. Um, but I'm going to go back a little bit, and I don't think this is too far off the subject, but you go into folks that have the ability to do things, remote viewers. And for those of you that may not know what that is, a remote viewer, and this has been tested on our military in a bunch of different countries, so this is not a crazy science fiction type of topic, but folks that can sit in a room that have psychic abilities and allow them to astral project themselves, or go to another place and see a missile silo in the middle of Siberia or something like that. Our country actually, and as well as many other countries, actually experimented with this. If our brain's able to do that, and we haven't even able to function with, understand all that yet as to why it happens, maybe that's part of why we're also able to go to heaven and come back, because
Yeah.
it's not really, it's our conscience, but our conscience is maybe our soul, our spirit. I've heard an interesting thing recently, that you've got a spirit and a soul, two different things. I heard one person explain it, that when you die, your spirit is your energy, and that's what stays. Your soul goes off to wherever it's supposed to go, be it heaven or wherever you might believe.
Nah, I don't like that idea.
Eh,
I think the heaven thing is just a little bit too Christianized. I think it might just be another place where you go to and you can come and go if you want. You know,
Well, yeah, yeah, and I see a lot of people feeling that way. And heaven is, well, it's a human creation. It's
mhm.
what humans wrote about. So I can't argue with that too much. But
Science cannot explain where you go when you die and how in the heck did you come back after an hour. Now, science can
mhm,
explain that there's something definitely happening, but they don't have a clue what's happening. They can also explain that every living creature has an essence of life. And everything from dogs, cats, horses to everything has an essence of life, an essence of soul, because they're just like us. What makes us
mhm,
unique? Just because they don't have the brain capacity of we do. Well, we may not have the brain capacity of an octopus. Who
mhm.
knows what the hell the octopuses are up to, because they make no sense at all. Their DNA doesn't even match anything on this planet. Uh, so
We
in their world, we might just be not even worth talking to.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And dogs, they also know what's happening. Having to My son and I had to take his dog and have him put to sleep, because the poor boy Bobby was dying from bad cancer. That dog looked at us and knew exactly what was happening.
Well, that's
Knew
that's my
exactly
yeah, that's my biggest pet peeve is people that underestimate, abuse, or just write off any living animal. It doesn't have
what.
to be a dog, because if you say dogs can't feel love or have a
Hmm.
conscience, then there's something wrong in your head. Then you're probably on the fringes of becoming a serial killer, because that's how most of them guys start, but with those ideologies. Uh, if you ever seen your dog die, if you ever held your dog while he was put to sleep, if you ever been away a long time and come back and see the look in your dog's eyes as you walk in
Oh
the
yeah.
house, that's there's definitely an understanding there. And just because he can't write you a letter or call you on the phone does not
Hmm.
make him less. So that's a huge pet peeve of mine.
And I'm with you, partner. I am on that one completely. But
That's the
uh,
reason I'm not in California right now. I should be in vacation in California, but I got an old dingo shepherd mix, and she's 14 or 15 years old, and she's not long for this world. And I don't want to be gone when she passes. I want her,
mhm.
to know that she's been loved till the end. Sounds corny, sounds cheesy, but I've had that dog
Nope.
for 15 years, and and me and that
Yeah.
dog used to run miles and miles and miles together. I'm not going to just abandon her now because she can't walk anymore.
Knowing that love that dogs have for a lot of animals, but we're talking about dogs right now. And then you think about, I don't want to compare dogs with pigs, although pigs are very intelligent. You watch that experiment, how their brains began to show signs of life again after that period of time with the ECMO type treatment. So what do dogs experience? What do they see? I mean,
That I would hope that'd be the next scientific revolution where they can enter an animal's conscience and see what a dog or any animal how they perceive the world. Because we've been
oh, that
wrong
would
about
be interesting.
we've been wrong about everything. I mean, when it comes to animals, I mean, in the 1940s and 30s, animals are trash. I mean, oh, I read a horrible book when I took animal cruelty classes when I was in the DA's office because in the state of New Mexico they made animal cruelty a felony.
Mhm.
Finally,
Is in
it
Florida.
was a misdemeanor, and it was just people going around shooting dogs with 22s for the hell of it. It's a misdemeanor. Who cares? So they finally made it a felony, and they sent me a couple of classes on that. And it was fascinating the history, how we have evolved as humans ourselves
Mhm.
just in the last 70, 60, 70 years. In the 1930s, kids used to think it was totally amusing to stick foreign objects up dogs' butts, sticks, and they'd laugh about it. I'm like, how is that funny? But that was a real common thing in America, in Europe, pretty much across the world, just to torture animals. And I'm like, that's not even fun. What is wrong with you people? What happened there? How did you
Mhm.
even? And their rationale was they're not conscious, living, feeling things. They're just things. I'm like, wow,
Mhm.
how wrong were you?
Yeah.
That's in one way, like TikTok. That's what I appreciate about TikTok. There are just hundreds and thousands of animal videos on there of all. I just watched one yesterday with a bat. This lady rescued a little bat, and she bottle fed it and fed it bananas and stuff. And you can see the love in this bat's eyes, and it's a bat. And she set this bat free, and this bat keeps returning to her house every freaking year, bringing the bat's mate with it. And I'm like, this animal understands that it was taken care of here and comes back to this place. May
Mhm.
just be totally instinctual, but nevertheless.
Well, yeah. I mean, and how does that connect with the brain, whether it be an animal brain or human brain? How does that connect with the consciousness, and how does that there connect with something getting ready to pass, getting ready to die?
Yeah.
Um, you know, like I said, there's just so many stories about folks that have seen the other side, and I don't know about you, but most of the ones that I've read, and you wonder also if animals go through this too. There's always that white light.
Hmm.
There's always that light. Now, is that just a physiological thing, or is there something to that? See, whenever I hear a bunch of stories that have a common theme, there's a reason for it, whether it be a spiritual or physiological reason. There's a reason it's happening. And I would like to find out or figure out, and I'm sure there's studies being done on that white light. How many people actually see that in one way or another?
It seems to be a common thing, seeing that light.
Yeah. And
Another thing with animals is that when you talk to people that aren't so much on board with the whole animal brain thing, they say, well, animals are vicious. They kill each other constantly. It's a dog-eat-dog world. You have predators and you have
mhm,
just grazers. And I'm like, well, they have to eat. And how's that different from us? Aren't we doing the exact same thing? We're predators. We kill animals constantly. We eat hamburgers. I like meat. We're no different. So how can you say animals can't compare to humans because they're just vicious killers? We're no different. You're just having somebody do the killing for you. I've always said if you went out and had to kill your own beef or your own animals, you'd probably become a vegetarian pretty quick. I have talked to ranchers out here who teared
mhm,
up, and these are hardcore ranchers when they take their cattle to slaughter. They say, I fed these
mhm.
damn things for a year and a half, got to know them all. They come to me, and now I have to load them in a trailer and take them to the slaughterhouse. He goes, that's the hardest freaking thing to do. I'm like, yeah, I probably couldn't do it. All these damn cows would be my pets. I prefer to
Well,
buy my meat from the store.
yeah, yeah, and you could put a few cows on your property.
I could.
Yeah, you could.
I'd have to
So,
make room though, because I got a Sasquatch living out there on their property. So
huh?
not really. He's not really.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that's something we haven't discussed yet.
That's what I used to claim for tax purposes, because when you have a bunch of land out here, if it's agricultural and you have animals on it, they give you a huge tax break. But I never had any animals on my land. So when tax season come around, they'd ask me, are you grazing any cows out there? I'm like, no, just a Sasquatch. It didn't work. They didn't give me no tax credit.
You don't want anybody ratting you out here for if they did. So,
oh no, there's none to rat out. They can check my tax records. I pay a lot of freaking taxes to keep cows off my land, because out here in the desert, cows just, you run cows on your land, they graze it down to a sandy beach in no time at all, and that's all you got left.
So anyway. Going back to the show, you have some more key points on there, I think, don't?
Well, yeah, it said science still can't explain where the soul or conscience goes when you're having a near death or actual death experience. I'm definitely going to start calling that now, because it makes a hell of a lot more sense. Because we do know we have a soul. Because if we didn't have a soul, or if we didn't have a conscience, all of us would be exactly the same. We'd be like computers. Our brains are pretty much identical in everybody. It might be a little heavier, a little lighter, but essentially we're all the same. We're all prototype of the same thing, but it's our individualism, our essence I call it essence of life, because that's the best way I can explain it. What makes you, just what makes animals. No dog is the same. Every dog has a different feeling or attitude, or that's how humans are. Every human is different, even though we have the exact same circulatory system, the same brain, all that stuff. That thing, what is it, and where did it go? Why is it coming back? And why doesn't it come back sometimes? Maybe you've had a good life and it's like, I'm done with it.
So in your opinion, the experience of a near-death experience, or red, I can't remember what red is, but the red, that is actually the soul. You do not think it's a physiological, chemical, mechanical reaction of the brain. I've got that correct, right? I feel that way.
Absolutely, 100%, because if that was happening, like the battery analogy, your brain would be getting weaker and dying. And two, you wouldn't be able to see things outside from a view from above, or outside the room, or any of that stuff. Because if it was a chemical reaction, it's all internal. It's all your brain just making up stuff to cope with dying. But when I can see the doctor next door eating my lunch, that's no longer a chemical reaction.
So, and I agree with you. I'm just kind of setting something up here. So that being the case, then comes in the argument, the discussion, the thought of what is a soul, what is our conscious, and there's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff on the internet that talks about it. And the one thing I've gathered from the stuff that I have seen, there's a couple of shows in particular that I watch. I don't want to get in trouble, so I don't want to mention names here, but there's one series of shows out there that I watch. Nobody has the same opinion. They're similar, but everybody has a little bit different take on it. And I really see a big difference between philosophers and spiritual leaders and scientists still. I think scientists, I think they're starting to come together, but there's still a divide here. And it tells me, again, we don't know.
I would like to think that all three of those people you've mentioned, that's their human construct of what they believe, and they're bullying, trying to prove that their point is the correct point, whether you're a philosopher, a scientist, or you're trying to prove your point to prove you're right and everybody else is wrong. But what it boils down to is that since the beginning of time, pretty much every culture has believed in a soul. The Native Americans had the death bowl. They put a bowl over your head and had a hole in the center of it. And the reason there was a hole in the center of that bowl, so your soul could get out, so you're not, your soul could get. Every culture had that. Even back, 5,000 years ago, they knew something was making you. You're not just a machine, you're something different. And that different thing, that whatever made you, is leaving your body. It's going somewhere.
Okay, then let me be the guy that throws the wrench into this thought. Just let me get your opinion on this. Humans do things for self-preservation. Is it because we have to believe that there's something else? Now, we're talking to a couple of paranormal investigators here, so we have our opinions, but I'm going to throw this out to you to throw a wrench in the works. Is it because we have to believe? Because we can't stand the thought, even back millenniums ago, we couldn't bear the thought of this being it.
I'm with you on that. I think it's a coping mechanism. I think it's hand in hand. That's a way of explaining that there's something strange going on. But everybody, and that's why religion is prominent to this day. You know, something that happened 2,000 years ago and longer, in many cases, and still very prominent because it's a coping mechanism, especially if one of your loved ones dies. You know, if you lose a family member, you would really like to hope that family member is in a better place. They always call it a better place. And that's how you deal with it. That's how your brain copes with it. Like, it died, but it's in a better place.
But I think you and I are in a little bit of a different spot. As many people maybe that are watching this show, we have investigated, researched what's on the other side. So at least I have a different view of it. I do believe there's something else on the other side based upon my experiences and things. But those that haven't had those experiences or researches can easily say just a coping mechanism, as you said. How are we going to bring those two sides together?
Well, there's two different things. The coping mechanism is you believing that your loved one or whoever has passed is in a better place. That still doesn't explain the out-of-body experiences, the seeing things, coming back, haunting an area, staying in one spot in the afterlife. What in the heck is going on there? And none of that makes any sense. That's, to me, that's apples and oranges. I know for a fact there's another world among us because I've experienced it. I've seen it. I've heard it. I've felt it. And anybody who's an investigator like us or anybody that's, you don't have to call yourself an investigator. If you're just a curious person, you've probably experienced weird shit yourself. And it makes no sense. And it's not a construct of your mind. You're not imagining things. You're not paradoiling everything. There's sometimes, a lot of times it's mistaken identity, but they can't all be. Unless you're just batshit crazy.
Well, and that's an argument that I've given for years. For the millenniums that this has gone on, people have experienced things from every socioeconomic level, every culture, every race, everybody. It's all been experienced. They all can't be crazy. It can't be mass hysteria completely. Not when you're talking hundreds of years between of events. So something has to be going on. I agree with you. Just throwing that out as a sake of argument. What
and
is
the argument you hear from people that are non-believers is like, well, if you can talk with the spirit world, or if you're investigating the spirit world, why don't they ever give you tangible information? Like, this is my name is Jimmy Smith. I died in 1927, and to prove it to you, I buried my toy outside the oak tree in the backyard. Go dig it up; it's there. That would be 100% proof. I'm like, because nobody knew, he had a toy buried out there in the yard. Does it happen sometimes? I think there are cases, it's never happened to me, but I think there are cases out there where spirits, and I think you have a situation in that case with a child where you were led to discover something, and maybe they are prohibited by certain laws of the universe where they cannot interact as much as you think they can.
Well, yeah, the story I have is pretty darn fascinating. We're still looking into it now, but you're making this, not you, but people that make that argument are making the assumption that we understand what the rules are. Hell, we don't understand squat. We don't understand a thing about what the other side is, except that it occurs. Now, the incident that Ike was talking about is, and I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail right now, but I can tell you this: during an investigation, Chris Huff was involved as a medium. He was joining us via the internet, which was another fascinating topic, and also an argument that this whole concept is not constrained by man's view of things. But he was there. We had equipment there, and we got word of a little girl that was in this building. And she gave us a name, and she gave us an approximate age. I did some questioning as if I was for lack of a better term, talking to a child victim, which I did quite a bit of, and basically was able to determine that this child was probably from the 30s and 40s, late 30s, mid 40s era, that type of period of time. And we thought that was pretty cool. It got some pretty clear evidence. only to come to find out that after my daughter, who works in this town, she got a hold of she was checking records, couldn't find anything, but talked to the superintendent of the local cemetery, and who called me and said, "It's amazing. I just had a conversation with somebody the other day, and they had a relative who died at the age of 5 in 1939, which is the year, and her name was the same, and he took me to her gravesite." How does that happen?
And why doesn't it
That
happen all the time?
Because maybe it can't.
Right. There
And
might be some kind of rules.
there's rules we don't know. Heck, people talk about looking at everything under the constructs of today's science. But 200 years ago, did anybody have a clue how we were going to go to the moon?
No.
No. Oh, that's just Jules Verne stuff. But we're doing it now. Heck, let's talk about something even more simple. Dick Tracy talking to somebody on his phone. We do that all the time now. So my point being is we have got to be careful not to live and believe that the only possibility is what we know today.
Now you paint yourself into a box and you close the lid, and then everything in that box is what's fact to you, even though you're being bombarded by new things that are happening, but you're refusing to accept it.
But isn't
Maybe
that
all,
safe?
yeah,
Isn't
maybe
that safe though?
all spirits, all ghosts, maybe they're all breaking the rules. Maybe they're the true outlaws of the spirit world. Maybe there's a rule when you die that says you will not contact the living world or cross over or do any of that bullshit. But there's a few that are like, screw you. I'm going to do it anyway.
Now you're suggesting that there's independent thought and desires and motives on the other side.
I think there's definitely independent thought because I've had intelligent responses. So that's independent thought. When I held up in one of my videos where I held up my little vial of gold and I'm using the Spirit Box 11 and it's scanning all these radio frequencies, but there's really nothing to scan. It's just going, through the whole thing. And I hold up my little vial of gold that I have mined in that area. And I said, what am I holding in my hand? And you're gold. That's an intelligent response from something. Because the odds of a radio station out of the blue saying the word gold when there's really no radio station I'm picking up to begin with are zero. Absolute zero.
Yeah.
Something out there in that spirit world said gold.
Well, one of my favorite things in the world was happened to us in Fellsmere. We're getting a little bit away from near death, but we're not really, because we're talking about conscious and what's on the other side. But we're in the old school in Fellsmere, and one of my teammates, Mark Holt was his name, asks a question. Billy, and that's an entity that we named in this building. Billy, is this the room you like to be in? And if you want, check it out. It's on our website, Indian River Haunting, or Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigations evidence website. It's there. Is this the room you like to be in? And you clear as a bell, you hear a little boy say, "Yes, sir."
That's a response.
Yeah. So I think we're getting away from our, which we always do.
That's why we call the show whatever else.
Yeah, but it's not really far away from it.
No, because it all goes back to the conscience. Where is it? Where's it going? And why are they speaking to us?
Yes, exactly.
Any investigator worth his salt has had at least one good experience. That makes you question, like, this was an intelligent response, and once that happens to you, it really changes you in a lot of ways. Because it changes your whole belief system. And being naive about all this stuff, I don't want to hear about it, to, wow, there might be an entire universe of things happening out there. And every once in a while, something reaches through that wormhole and tells you something.
And isn't that what made us fairly decent investigators? Because we had an open mind. We were willing to look past the norm. We were willing to look past the...
You know as well as I do, to be a detective or an investigator, if you're not open-minded, you have a really short lifespan as a detective. If you go in with conceived notions of what you think already is done and that's all you're going to listen to, the judges will straighten you out when that court day comes. You'll learn your lesson really quick. I mean, you have to be incredibly open-minded and have the benefit of doubt on everything and prove it beyond a shadow of doubt before you proceed. Yeah.
But are we ever going to be able to prove this beyond a shadow of a doubt? What we're talking about, the conscience, near-death experience, are we ever going to...
Only to people like us who believe in that kind of stuff. I think a person that doesn't want to hear about it really doesn't give a crap. And it's like your favorite thing was with what's his name, Lincoln.
Oh yeah.
Abraham Lincoln, he could pop up in your room, and if you're a non-believer and you really don't have time or care about that subject, you're just going to dismiss it as the hocus pocus. You're just Chris Angel. You're just making shit up.
Crusade.
That's what I think. I don't think you will ever get a consensus in the population. I mean, the good thing, what I've mentioned, I think last episode, is the UFOs. Look how UFOs have just come to the topic, to the spotlight in the last couple of years. You have some really notable, brilliant freaking people talking about unidentified flying objects, yet probably 2/3 of the people living up, I would say more. I would say 80% of the people in this country could care less. They're like, whatever. I ain't got time for this shit. The news is coming on. Yeah, I gotta go to Amazon and buy something. I mean,
Or they just or they don't care, or they just don't see it. Now, I think the one thing with me is I think I've evolved, as we all do, and I'm a lot more even. No, I'm good.
What are you evolving to?
I'm evolving as far as my ability to see more than what I'm used to seeing and accept information, not blindly agree with it, not blindly say it's true, but at least I have found myself able to understand other concepts or look at other concepts with a sense that there's a possibility. Thank you, Chris, by the way, if you're listening. He's been a huge help with that. Because if we don't do that, then nothing else matters. If we're going to sit in this little old life and just live in that cocoon and say, I'm going to, be born, go to school, grow up, pay taxes, and die, and that's it. Wow, what a.
And I think that's what makes a cop somewhat of it gives them a leg up, as say in the spirit world, because you see so much useless or senseless, the things that used to really irritate me, that really woke me up to pursuing this even further, even though I've done it since I was little, is I see people work their asses off until they're 80 years old, sitting on nickels and dimes, not spending a penny, and then they die. And then their kids take it all and blow it on hookers and crack, and I'm like, what the? That's just bullshit. Well, that was a good analogy, because I've seen it actually happen. I've seen who was a millionaire. And when he died, his freaking 2 sons took it, and they just had hooker parties and cocaine parties, and within 2 years, they're both in prison. I'm like, people that go through school and they get educated and they get PhDs times 3, all to die at age 65 with a stroke. I'm like, you just lived your life, and it didn't do any good. You didn't do anything with it. You were so concerned about being somebody that you forgot to actually be somebody. If that makes any sense.
Wow. Actually,
I could put that on a T-shirt.
Wow. I like that one, folks.
Today's quote by Ike.
Yeah, but you better copyright that one, pal, because that was actually pretty profound. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm full of profound sayings like that.
Yeah. So no, that's so true. That's so true. But waggling our way back to near death. I can
bring you some more. Bring you some more.
Bring me some more pearls of wisdom.
You can achieve that state of spiritual bliss, nirvana, not just by dying, but as we've talked about before, intense meditation, like a lot of the monks and the priests have accomplished. A lot of the yoga guys and the Hindus, yogis, have done amazing, unhuman things with their brains. And I've never really believed in that stuff because I'm not that disciplined. But a real quick story, since this is the story about paranormal and whatever the hell else we talk about. So the year is 2001. I've been a cop for about 3 years. And they decided to make me a firearms instructor, which was always something I wanted to be. And to be a firearms instructor in the state of New Mexico is a pain in the ass. Because first you have to pre-qualify, and you have to go to the state police, and they got 3 cocky-ass state police officers. They take you to the range, and their goal in life is to fail you because, they're state police. And you have to shoot a 90% or better with a semi-automatic weapon, a revolver, a shotgun, and an AR-15 style weapon of your choice. I had no problem with any of those because I always shot 90 or better anyway, with the exception of a revolver. I didn't even own a revolver. And so the sheriff hands
All we
me,
had when I started.
well, in corrections, I had a revolver. So the sheriff says, here, take this. And he hands me a Ruger Red Hawk 44 mag.
Ooh, ooh.
And he goes, take that up there with you for the prequel. I'm like, all right. And 500 rounds. And he hands me a box with 500 rounds in it. And if you shot 44 mags, they're cannons. I mean, it's really hard to be precise or accurate with a 44 mag because they just recoil.
Make my day.
After a while, you start flinching and you don't even want to pull the trigger anymore, especially Rugers, because they're not very ergonomic. They don't really fit your hand really good, and they hurt your wrist after about 10 rounds. So I get up there, and the 3 state cops are already waiting for me. It's raining, and I'm thinking, well, surely they're going to wait till it stops raining. Hell no. They just set up their little PA system outside their car. They're all 3 are sitting in their units, and they're barking orders at me, and they're 2-second targets. So you have target turns and 2 seconds turns the other way. And I do the rifle, I do the shotgun, pass it easily. And then I was carrying a Glock at the time. I fire my Glock, I pass it easily, and then it was a revolver. And I failed the first round. And supposedly you only get 2 tries. And after that, they fail you, and you'll never be a firearms instructor in the state of New Mexico. So I failed the first round. I'm like, son of a bitch, I'm soaking wet. My hands are cold. My hands are already hurting because it's 50 rounds for a course.
Is it a Red Hawk is single action? You actually have to cock it.
It was a pain in the ass. And they thought it was very amusing.
I bet.
And so they come up to me and they say, well, you got one more chance to do this. And if not, you're going to fail. Now, there was no failing for me. I was so in the zone because it would have been incredibly embarrassing for me to fail to come back to the sheriff's department like, sorry, I didn't make it. That wasn't an option. And I don't know what happened, but I got into a mindset that was so intense and so focused that I don't even really remember shooting the second course. And this is the honest God's truth. I mean, I was so focused because, like I said, the embarrassment was the driving factor for my wife and my kids and the SO, everybody else. Like, I don't want to be a failure. I can't be a failure. I was focused so freaking hard that in the second round, I shot a 96. And I don't know how I did it. They called ceasefire, and I look at the target, and I'm like, holy crap. I don't even remember reloading or anything. I was in the zone. Sports people get in that zone. I guess that's what that is. But something happened to my brain. Something happened to where I focused out everything. I had complete tunnel vision, and some of it I blacked out. Weird. And I remember this clearly to this day. I mean, the state cops were like amazed because he said, well, first time around, you shot like a 70. How the hell did you shoot a 96 this time? I'm like, I can't really explain it. I'm like, this is a fucking cannon. And then they all wanted to take turns shoot it because it stopped raining lightly. And, let me take a couple of shots with it. And they're like, damn, this thing kicks. I'm like, yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, 44. Jeez. Well,
but the moral of the story is I think that was one point in my life where I achieved such a focused state to where my body became alive. I was tingling. Nothing else mattered. And it was so intense that I barely remember doing it. And I think that's what happens when you're meditating or when you're when you're in an intense, stressful situation. I guess that happens all the time. The tunnel vision thing. There's been several in the line of duty where I've reached that state too.
Well, yeah, and obviously when you train a lot, you go into almost an automatic mode sometimes. But I do think what you're describing and the tone of this part of the conversation is what the mind can do. And I'm going to go back to what I mentioned a while ago, the remote viewers.
Mm-hmm.
Call it whatever you want. This was a scientifically, and anybody can look this stuff up, and it's pretty much out in the open now. They were training people to actually project themselves somewhere else and provide information. Now, it wasn't completely successful, but people showed they could do it. So therefore, there's got to be something in the mind, the consciousness, the soul, whatever, that once it's properly tapped into, you can do things that we just don't think is normal. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. The good movie about that is called Suspect Zero. I don't know if you've ever seen that with Sir Ben Kingsley. Mm-hmm. It was filmed out here. I had an assistant director ride with me in my unit for 2 days. Overtime pay. They were shooting movie sets out here and they needed security and stuff. And since I was a sergeant, I got to spent 2 days with the assistant director sitting in my unit, and I learned a lot about the movie making business in Hollywood and how really jacked up they are. But Suspect Zero, that's Ben Kingsley and Aaron Eckhart. Pretty good movie. I think it's running on Netflix right now. And that's about remote viewing, and it's got a really interesting twist. But it was all filmed out here in our county. It's a good watch. Came out in 2002, I think, or 3, something like that.
Well, we had Invasion USA filmed here.
Which movie is that? I don't remember it.
Oh, that was Walker, Texas Ranger. Oh, my mind just went.
Oh yeah. Jesus.
Two old cops. We can't remember anything.
Talking about brain problems.
Oh God, yeah. How the heck Anyway,
his name?
We filmed out here. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, we get a lot of movies. Almost every Western you watch that's been made here lately within the last 10 years is in New Mexico, because New Mexico has this huge tax credits for Hollywood. So everything's filmed there.
Wasn't that one Western movie that recently was shot, and there was a shot in it?
Oh yeah. There you go. There's one. there's one. That's still, I guess they charged him again. I don't know how many more times they charge him with that, but I have my personal feelings on that. I think he's not at fault. These are movie people, and they get handed tools, and that tool is expected to be cleared and ready to function because I'm an actor. I'm not a gun expert. I'm expected to point guns because that's my business. I'm not target shooting. I'm not plinking. I'm getting paid, and you're getting paid a lot of money to make sure you're handing me a safe weapon. Now, we're gun people, we're cops. We would automatically double check our stuff. And I would feel really uncomfortable pointing a weapon at anything anyway, unless I'm going to kill it. But these people are actors. That's what they do. Yeah. And I'm like, live ammo on set. They used to try to take our ammo. There's 2 movie sets out here, and we'd have to go on these sets every once in a while. And the security guy would say, drop your magazines here and unload your weapon, make it safe. You can't go on set with live ammo. Of course, us being deputies, like, go screw yourself. But that's a steadfast rule, no live ammo near the movie set. And these people were sneaking in 45 long Colts and somehow managing it to put it into his weapon. Could you imagine the shock he had?
Well, I will disagree with you on this one. If you're going to have any kind of weapon in your hand, you're still responsible for making sure. That's just my opinion. I
agree with you in one way, but the other way, I'm like, if I'm going to go rappelling and I don't know anything about mountain climbing or mountaineering or rappelling, and I hire a experienced mountaineer to lower me down on a rope, I expect you to hand me a freaking functioning rope and tell me how to do it. You're not going to let me fall off and say, it's your fault, dumbass.
Yeah, but that's your safety. When you've got a gun in your hand, we're getting too far off the NDA thing here, but
that's cool. That's a good topic though, because I like that, because actors, I've met lots of actors, and they're unique people. They're not experts in their field. Although I used to use that analogy when I was training police officers all the time. I'm like, you guys are like a bunch of worthless freaking bums when it comes to actors and how they manipulate weapons. You watch any of the big top actors and watch how cleanly they reload their weapons, how quickly and automatically they draw their magazines from their belts, how they press check their weapons and all that stuff. I'm like, you people can't even freaking make your shotgun cruiser safe. Mm-hmm. And look at these actors. They practice and practice and practice, and they are top notch. They practice until they get it right. I said, why can't you dumbasses do that?
Well, and there you just kind of proving my point with this individual. He's going to be it. But it does bring up a question, and I don't want to connect this
that movie set with real quick, like that movie set where that happened. I would love to do an investigation there, because in 2007 or 8, they were filming a movie out there, and they hired a father and son team to go that little guard shack that they see on TV when you pull into the gate. They were inside that little guard shack doing security there at night. And it was over a weekend, and they stopped production. And Monday morning, the first person shows up, and father and son are both dead in that guard shack. Carbon monoxide, and they had a little heater going on in there, kerosene heater.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so there's been a lot of weird shit that's happened at that set.
Well, and this brings to thought: what is when death is imminent, whether it be carbon monoxide, car accident, whatever, and in the fractions of a second prior to the ending, is there something seen or experienced by the person whose physical being on this earth is ending? Is there something? And I don't know that we'll ever be able to gather that kind of data, but that would be fascinating too in connection with the near-death experience. Is there something that's seen just before that we can't know about because the person did pass?
Yeah, yeah. Are they seeing something different than the
Yeah,
person that's having the experience, the death experience? Is there
yeah.
more to it?
Mhm,
Are they are they leaving something out? You're not
mhm.
worthy of part two because you went back. Part two is just right
Yeah.
around the corner. It's within reach. Here's your choice. You can go back or see part two, which one you want.
And
And I would
another
always go back.
And I find it interesting and would want to know why, and you hear it many times during people that have these experiences. No, you need to go back now. You're not done yet. How accurate is that?
And then they come back and do nothing. There's
Yeah.
more for you to do. You have a purpose in this life. And then they come back and they end up, eating themselves to death. I'm like, was that my
Well,
purpose?
some do. Well, some do, but I mean, not is that how it always works? And
Yeah.
are they accomplishing what they're supposed to? And is that really what the other side is saying? Because I've got to believe, and maybe I'm actually disproving my own theory here. If there's a thread in life that you're supposed to follow, and somehow you end up on the other side before you were supposed to, is that why?
And
I
why
don't
is
know.
it the other side speaking to you anyway in English? Or if you're in Taiwan in Taiwanese, or if you're in Canada and English that nobody understands, that's
Well,
fairly.
I think that there's some theory behind that, and that's that on the other side, language is just universal. It's whatever you're gonna understand it no matter what is said. And let's face it, you know, you
It gets
the
pushed into your head. This
yeah,
this information gets pushed into your head and translated into whatever you need to hear it in.
whatever it is, yeah. So how can you go to Romania and do an EVP session that says, "Are you here?" and you get an English voice back saying yes? Or there are occasions where you do get somebody in another language, um, you know,
I would love to go to
answering.
Romania, by the way.
Oh yeah, I would
That's
too.
a jewel of Europe, the undiscovered jewel of Europe. Because it was locked down and communist until the
Oh,
80s.
I know. Yeah.
Uh, they're still out there plowing fields with freaking mules and oxen and stuff in many cases, and it's like
Well,
going into prehistoric Europe.
let me tell you a place where I've had some really interesting paranormal experiences, and that is it's now called the Republic of North Macedonia, but it used to be called Macedonia, Republic of Macedonia. It was part of Yugoslavia. It's just above Greece. Wow. I've taken some pictures there that I can't explain. Have had it mystical spot too. Mystical spot too.
Yeah.
So just thought I'd toss that out there.
Yeah,
But
Europe is just fraught with. If you're an adventurer and you wanted to go investigate, oh my God,
and I and I will be in August. I will be there in August, so I'm looking forward to that. So
yeah,
anyway,
yeah, I would love to go to any of those. Romania would be pretty cool.
I
Czech
think a
Republic.
live remote for the Ike and Larry show needs to happen. I'm just saying.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So anyway, we kind of covered
A multitude of
most of
things.
our death experience topic. I think. Like I said, I've talked to people that had experienced it themselves. It's always the same story. I do not think it's a dying brain making sense of the dying process. Absolutely not, because it wouldn't explain your brain becoming clearer and more functional than it should be, especially since it's dying. And
Mhm,
two, the whole out of body thing, getting to see things that you generally or you shouldn't see because you're laying down a slab dead. So
mhm,
how the heck did you see me do this over there? And there's a lot of stories like that.
mhm.
Now
Tons of them.
there used to be, and I think that's been debunked. But maybe in the 80s or 70s, there was a doctor that said he weighed bodies that were dying and they were like zero point 0.5 ounces lighter upon death. But I think that may have been debunked. I'd have to research that. But that was, he said something leaves the body, but he couldn't explain what it was. And presumably that was the soul.
There's been pictures. I mean, we've seen them of car accidents where there's a human type form fuzzing everything, moving away or at the scene. So who knows?
I'm going to have to find that police one from Santa Fe, a police car that was chasing
Yeah.
that car and they rolled, because that's one of the clearest I've ever seen. And
Yeah, I'll see if you can
we'll
find
attach it. If I can find it, I'll attach it to the end of this video, because that's a fascinating one. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I don't think it weighed anything. You know,
Yeah.
does your soul have any weight? I don't know.
I think not. That would be my opinion only. But so.
And once again, there's the dimension issue. Who knows in what dimension that thing actually operates? You know, they keep finding more and more dimensions. You know, when I was a kid, I think the fifth dimension was as high as it got, and it was
it was a group.
Yeah, it was a pretty good songs too. And now they have like the 11th and 12th and 15th dimensions. I'm like, oh my God. I got trouble just contemplating the third and fourth dimension, you know, time and space. Time you can manipulate. I mean, space you can manipulate. We're manipulating space right now. We're together talking, but we're in totally different places. But we can't manipulate time, because if we could manipulate time, then I could go back 5 minutes from now real quick and re-say something that I thought was really stupid.
But now there goes another door. Time is a human construct.
Well, as in the TikTok clock time. But if you take that away, just going back or forward, so far has not been achieved, as far as I know. Unless these ghosts or the Sasquatch or everything else is coming or going from time. You know, maybe Sasquatch is a prehistoric critter that lived 20,000 years ago, or maybe it's something that came to this planet 10,000 years in the future. You know, that was dropped here. Who knows? That's another topic. That's another topic we need to talk about, is the cryptid, because I've had a few experiences with that, and I used to always think, you know, that's another one of those nonsense topics. It's funny how you just paint yourself into a corner with your beliefs, and you know, you think this is right and this is wrong, and that's it. And then until you experience it, you experience it, and you're like, well, I think I just experienced something Sasquatchy out here. And all these people on TV, you know, those, you got to remember, those are entertainment shows. Those are, you know, a lot of that is just made more exciting, and they add and take things away. But they all got the idea from somewhere, and there's definitely, I mean, me and my daughter Christine both seen and experienced something that was definitely on the Squatchy side, because I've never seen a barefooted person with a, you know, a 17-inch long foot traipse around on the mountainside in the snow where you were at. You know, it was in that neck of the woods I took you.
Okay. Yeah, I've never experienced that myself, but I'm open to believing. To see. So.
What are the Cajuns down there? Well, I know you're not really in Cajun country, but close to it. But they have
really not here.
They must have a pretty strong spiritual belief, right?
Well, now you're talking New Orleans, and you're talking about France and Haiti, and the French-Haitian connection then, and voodoo, the Afro-Caribbean cults. I can talk quite a bit about that. And it's, they're interesting belief, because it's a mixture of Catholicism and ancient magical religious beliefs. So
that's funny, because like out here, the Native Americans and the Hispanics, that's the old Hispanics, you know, predominantly all Catholics. On the same token, they worship and conduct. Frog in my throat. My daughter's got COVID. Hope I'm not getting it again.
No, I'm sorry to hear that.
They're the old Hispanic beliefs here are bruja type stuff.
Brujeria is black magic from
from the natives.
Yeah.
Mexico and the natives here, South America, and very common out here and totally accepted. That's a great. Yeah. There's another great. You know, we kind of touch on movies a lot, and we should probably do a movie review one of these days on the all-time best movies. But the Milagro Beanfield War came out in probably 80s or something like that. Another good one. It's I think this kid's from New York. He's like a newspaper writer or something. And he comes out and spends time with these local indigenous Hispanics, and he's just perplexed that they would have all these Catholic saints, and at the same time, you know, worship some really weird native voodoo stuff.
Well, for years I taught a class to law enforcement on cults and deviant groups investigations, and I taught law enforcement officers about those different types of religious beliefs and things to look at. For we talked about voodoo, Santeria, brujeria, palomayombe, all kinds of weird stuff. Well, to us, weird, not so much to those folks. I don't want to just stuff that we don't often.
Once again, these people totally believe in it. I mean, they're 100% committed. And I think I've told you the story of like out here in this neck of the woods, maybe not anymore, but 10 years ago in the mountainsides, it's mostly land grants, all Hispanic. And if a person dies, nobody could touch the body until every family member, regardless of where the hell they're at, comes and says goodbye to this body. Because if they don't, that person will be haunted by that person. And it's like,
there's some religious beliefs, excuse me, in Asia, where the decedent stays with you in body form for a period of time before they bury it.
oh,
So
good
yes,
times.
yeah, it's some interesting stuff there. So then maybe that's a topic we can bring up sometime. I'd love to chat about that and maybe talk to folks.
I went to a house here one
Oh,
time for a domestic call, verbal domestic, and I walk into the living room, and there's a coffin sitting in the corner of the living room up on the table. It's got some flowers and pictures on top, and I'm like, is there somebody in there? And they're like, no. I'm like, can I check? And I'm like, sure. And I move the flowers, look in there, the coffin's empty. I'm like, what are you guys doing with that? Oh, it's for Grandpa. He's in the bedroom. He's not expected to live much longer. So they pre-bought his coffin and put it in the living room. I'm like, well, that's pretty cruel.
nothing like planning ahead, I guess, right?
Hey, Grandpa, come lay in there. Why don't you start sleeping in that thing tonight? Be a lot easier. We're gonna have to move you when you die. Close the lid. Yeah. But that had nothing to do with ancient traditions or cultures. These were just weird freaking people. I think it had more to do with methamphetamine than anything else.
Yeah, I got a couple stories like that myself.
Oh, and then real quick, like we're getting close. We're trying to make these an hour and a half long. But I said, you can have out-of-body experiences by meditating, stress, and stuff like that. Chemically induced, you can also achieve the same thing by taking
There are a lot
especially psychedelics, mushrooms,
once
cactus.
again, that was experimented by our government and other governments, the use of LSD to reach altered psychological states. And there are folks that believe that if you enhance your mind, if you want to use that term, with chemicals, you have a better opportunity to experience the paranormal. Now, it can easily be argued that you're experiencing the paranormal because of the drugs.
It's easy to argue for us as cops because we're so ingrained in saying drugs bad that that for me the analogy is, as a young cop, man, I'd find 5 ounces of marijuana and I thought I was the biggest drug bust I've ever seen. I'm like, oh yeah, you're going to jail. And then later on in my career, I'd find a couple ounces of marijuana. I'm like, dude, it's against the law. Dump it out the window, on your way. I've never had anybody high on weed want to ever kill me or kick my ass, but tons of people on alcohol I've rolled around with. But psychedelics, peyote, psilocybin, DMT, LSD. LSD, they give it to many soldiers. Many soldiers suffered the old LSD trips, intentionally.
Yeah, our government test, MK Ultra, I believe, was the. Yeah. So
and they think what was his name? The guy that killed Sharon Tate, Charles Manson. They say his whole lead up to becoming who he was through secret or clandestine LSD treatments.
By the government. Did not know that one.
Yeah. There's definitely a world within a world when it comes to that. Maybe some of it is all the brain just making stuff up. But once again, it doesn't explain to some of the things that are happening in your brain that are out of body that you're seeing. So something is opening a door in your brain that's making you see things. There's a great story on people that do. I was really fascinated by this stuff, and I've never taken any kind of hallucinogens or any kind of psychedelic drugs ever. It scares me too much. But there's books written on people that have taken ayahuasca, and ayahuasca is DMT's natural form, and it's down in the Amazon, and it's 2 ingredients that somehow these people over 1,000 years figured out that if you take them separately, they do absolutely nothing for you. If you boil them together and do this and that and this and that, all of a sudden you can have a crazy ass trip. People that do DMT all have the same experiences. They all experience helpers. They're alien beings that guide you through your trip. And they've given ayahuasca to people back east, and the helpers would show up and they would find themselves in the jungle in the Amazon, seeing animal creatures. So somehow this ties into the jungle. It's weird. It shouldn't make any sense.
I think this all ties back to the fact that continued study in what the brain is capable of in different situations will ultimately be the answer to what it is we seek, to what it is we investigate. That's my thought. So
absolutely. Yeah, there's a whole show we can do on psychedelics. I've written quite a few books on it. Not written, read a bunch of books on it. And
I'm gonna say, dude,
no, I haven't written anything. I've written stuff, but it's all just on flash drives. But another interesting one is the reindeer. The whole Christmas story. Psilocybin, the red and white mushrooms. I don't know if they grow in Florida, but they grow all over here, and especially all over Europe. They're red with white spots on them. It's a fly agarus mushroom. In the right dose, it's psychedelic, and too much of a dose is deadly. But the people in Lapland knew that deer love those damn mushrooms, reindeer, caribou, and they would eat the shit out of those mushrooms, and then they'd pee, and the pee would extract the toxins out of it, but leave the psychedelic effects in there, psychoactive effects in there. So the Laplanders would follow around reindeer and capture their piss and drink it and have some really wild trips.
I'll bet.
Now, when you think of flying reindeer and Santa Claus, where do you think that may have come from? Because Santa Claus has nothing to do with Christianity. I mean, it was kind of integrated in the 1900s, but there was no red and white guy in a snowstorm anywhere in Bethlehem. So
wait a minute. Red and white suit, red and white spotted mushrooms. I don't know.
Flying deer.
Now, the only thing we have down here is folks go into the cow fields here, and there's some of our mushrooms grow with the cow patties, and
they do that in Texas. There's every time I used to go to Texas, there's people running around these cow fields out there. I'm like, what the hell are you people doing? I don't know what kind of mushroom it is, but they pull them straight out of the cow poop, and it's some kind of mushroom. There was just a person that just the other day on the news, there was a guy that damn near died, and he plucked a mushroom somewhere, and he had his app on his phone that identified mushrooms, and apparently he misidentified that one, and it was the angel of death that he plucked out of his backyard and promptly cooked up in some butter and garlic. And man, he got jacked up, freaking liver damage, kidney failure, all kinds of shit. But watch out what you eat.
Definitely.
All right, so it's been an hour and 32 minutes. I think we had a good show, good topic.
I hope you folks enjoyed it, and I really hope that you watch it, tell your friends about it. Give us some thoughts on what you want to talk about also, maybe some questions, maybe some things, because I don't know, I think if we got some input from the folks, we could talk about it at the beginning of the show, Ike, and
if you write letters, we will read them.
Yeah. But this is an opportunity for all of us to talk and maybe come up with some answers by putting our brains together and figuring out maybe how our brains work. I don't know.
And it would really help us if you shared. If you have a friend that you want to punish with a good show or a bad show, share this show with them, because it makes a difference for us. Because what keeps me especially motivated, and I don't know about Larry, but I want to see the show grow a little bit. Otherwise, it seems like I'm just talking to the same group of people. I want to make this get a little bigger. So please share it, like and share it. You can also find us on Spotify now. Just type in the Ike and Larry Show on Spotify, and
as well as YouTube.
And on YouTube, you'll find it in IDK Paranormal for now.
And you'll also find it on my websites, Indian River Hauntings on Facebook, and the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation on Facebook. We'll have it up there, and check my stuff out also, where I'm on YouTube at Indian River Hauntings 2341. If you want to check out what my crew does down in this neck of the woods, as well as the great IDK Paranormal, one of the best shows out there. So check that out also. Yeah, well, I'm trying.
We're trying, folks. We're doing this not for monetary reasons, because obviously there's no money in this unless you have 5 million subscribers, and that ain't never going to happen. We're doing this for fun and to find people that are like-minded like us, people that like to listen. Podcasts are great. The reason I switched to a podcast format, because I know if you're a truck driver, if you're out there jogging or exercising, podcasts are one of the nicest things to listen to when you're doing any of those things. It just makes time go by and you have something to listen to. I listen to podcasts when I run all the time, and it's great. I listen to Larry's podcast when I run. And
my other show, that's right.
Makes time fly, and it's fun to listen to. So that's why we're in a podcast format.
Yeah, my other podcast is Paranormal Stakeout. So check that one out. And folks, really, what we want you to do is to think. Open your mind, think, come up with maybe a new way to look at things, and hopefully this show will help you do that a bit.
And if you're really special, we may consider having you a guest. If you can demonstrate to us you have remote viewing capabilities, or you can conjure something out of thin air, good or bad, or we're going to put you on. if you have some kind of notoriety or you think you're badass and we think you're not, we may still put you on. Depends.
Anyway, thanks for listening, folks.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week. This one will come out Sunday morning as usual. I think I'll post them at 3 a.m. Sunday morning New Mexico time. If you're one of those people that can't freaking wait, that's Mountain Time, 3 in the morning. Set your alarm clock and listen to this episode. I think this is good.
6 o'clock here. 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock here, yeah. So thank you, guys. See you next time. See you, Larry.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.